Next is Levi.
Woohoo. Cool. Well, here I am. So normally I'd sort of go around and ask everyone, well, firstly I'll say, kia ora, my name's Levi. I am head farmer of an urban farm in Auckland called OMG, Organic Market Garden. We are located at the very top of Simon Street, very unlikely kind of area to have a full production market garden, which is what we are. So it's at the very top of the hill. It is a site that used to be an abandoned building site. And I think what I come up with the idea before of doing, I might just, if I can, share my screen. If the host could enable the participant sharing screen, and then I can just whip you through some photos on our Instagram and talk to them. But it's 310, we've got 310 square meters of growing beds there. And we've got the whole site in total is 500 square meters. And thus far, this is just coming into my 4th season on that land. So we've been doing it now. Yeah, it's been close to 4 years now of growing there. And when we started it, by the way, this project is a project of For the Love of Bees. That's how it started. I did a lot of volunteering and work with For the Love of Bees from probably about 5 years ago. And I was teaching and doing a lot of work with specifically community groups all around Auckland, but schools and communities, all kinds of ethnicities, starting up urban gardens, I guess, all around Auckland. And it was very much about education and teaching people about the actual ways in which plants grow, the strict biological ways, which is in communication and partnership with living soil life. And then also teaching these people about how, these plants provide food, not only for humans, but for all kinds of soil microorganisms and for pollinators, and the roles that I guess plants and flowers and insects play in the functioning of our whole lives. So really the practice of making these gardens with these communities was really connecting them to the beauty and the magic and the wonder of that, but not only just that, doing it in a really fun, optimistic and empowering way, for it to be like a learning adventure, a learning experience for people that would get them inspired to contribute and not to look at all the problems in the world, but to instead look at what all the problems are and think, okay, I know about them, but I don't want to spend all my time saying don't do this and don't do this. Like what For the Love of Bees is about, and what OMG is about really, is it's about reimagining a new future and a new system from the get-go, and that being a very fun, inclusive and empowering experience for people. So what we got offered this land, because anyone is the host able to enable me to share my screen here? We working on that? Not sure, but because then I can just show you some photos of it for those that haven't seen it. I'm sure a handful of people have, but we're out there doing these projects in the community through For the Love of Bees, and some landowners called, very big landowners called the City Rail Link, the construction company who's building the rail link that loops up Auckland City. They had a piece of land, which is the farm that we're currently on. Oh, here we are. That's awesome. Thanks for that. Yeah, so let's go with this. So now you can see me, huh? All you guys? Yep, take that as a yes.
Yes, we can all see you.
Okay, cool, sweet. I can't hear you. Sweet, cool. So this here is our site. So you can see it truly is, if you ignore the summer seedling CSA, it truly is smack bang in the middle of the sort of concrete jungle. There's very little kind of green space around here. And there's also very little sort of access to fresh local produce. Supermarkets from here are a decent walk away. You've either got to go all the way to Ponsonby, or you've got to go to down Dominion Road. If you're a local, and there is literally thousands of people living within a very close vicinity to here, because it's very high dense living. And there's just no accessibility for people to do that. And so this here, there used to be an existing community garden here, but there actually was, there was a building on this site. And when we arrived 3.5 years ago, it was just a kikuyu kikuyu meadow. And it was a lovely meadow because people had been giving it love. There was an existing community there. They'd planted pumpkins and lots of wildflowers and herbs and lots of beautiful things, but it was mainly kikuyu and a whole lot of rubbish, and it was used for for the location of the site, which is a very, very high profile location. The site wasn't getting used for what its potential was, and so the City Rail Link, they approached us and they said, look, we love what you do, we want you to do a project here. And this was sort of the beginning really of my journey when I I always call myself a grower, because I love growing plants, and that I guess is the simplest terms. But it was in the beginning of this project here where I became a farmer. So maybe we can scroll right back down the feed. Yeah, so you can sort of get a sense here of how urban it was. This is in 2019. So up now at the moment, we've got this whole top area in production. We've terraced that off, and that's full of veggies now. But in terms of what it was, oh yeah, so here we are. Here's a nice early pick. This was in 2018. This is when we just first sort of started in the land. And then there you go. There's a photo of what it was like. So yeah, we've just sort of transformed it. And it's been an amazing process. It's been a really incredible process. We started off following very much the model that a lot of urban farms are going. This photo here is a pretty descriptive photo of sort of where we're like, okay, we want to start a small scale intensive market garden. And so we bought a seeder, and we broad forked the soil, and we added in our amendments, and then we ripped through the seeder with some, mizuna and radishes and baby leaves, and we were growing bok choys. And this is really cool to show you guys this, because really, you'll notice here, this is just lettuces. There's some Mizuna, but this is a whole row here of what looks like straight Mizuna. And this is something that we see a lot of in agriculture now. And this is something that if you look at the farm now, years later, 2021, well, it'll be two years, 3 months later. And if you look at the farm now, it looks just radically different. See if I can show you. It's most of the pictures of the farm that we have. It's almost impossible to identify what's growing in them because it's an absolute jungle. And so what we do now and what we really pride ourselves on is growing food for the local community through a community supported agriculture scheme. This is one of our boxes here. What we do is we grow not only what I'll do is I'll just stop my sharing. So we grow not only with that's better. So we don't grow single species of anything anymore. We grow multiple species together in close proximity. And the ultimate goal with OMG, and this is a personal goal and also just the goal of the project, is that it is seeking to, the goal is to produce as much food from as small a space as possible. So what that looks like is highly diverse plants. So our beds that we're planting out at the moment in springtime, they're 1 meter wide and they've got 8 different species growing in them. So lines, and there's 8 different species. That is something that you'd be very, very pressed. Put it this way, you'd be very pressed to find 4 species, let alone 2 or 3 in most small-scale intensive market gardens in New Zealand. The reason why we do multiple species in close proximity is because we, A, get to harvest more from the land area, but also we're feeding greater soil microorganisms because every species produces a different complexity of root exudate that feeds different soil microorganisms. For instance, brassicas aren't mycorrhizal. Parsley or a fennel has a really deep taproot. Tomatoes are much more shallow. The more species you can have together, the faster you're going to rebuild and regenerate your soil. So multiple species, whatever we're growing, obviously, it's very important that we're able to sell it. From the beginning of the project, we started off selling to, I guess, chefs and restaurants, as well as the local community through like markets and stuff. And really we were just kind of copying what other people were doing. But there came a point pretty quickly where I guess I found my feet a little bit and a little bit more confidence in growing things. And started playing around with these combos, and we started putting together veggie boxes because what we're finding is when you follow the traditional model and you harvest your veggies and then you take that stuff to market, you end up with a lot of waste. You do your big harvest of radishes and you don't sell them all or whatever. You take them to market and then some people rock up and they'll be like, yeah, I'll get that, and you might make a $8 sale. We were trying to make a business around this, around selling. That was the whole concept for OMG, is that the first thing it had to achieve is that it had to be a self-sustaining business. So it had to pay the wage of the farmer, which was myself. So in the beginning, I was getting paid 30 hours a week at the living wage. It was 20 hours a week at the living wage, which is $21.50. That was to start off with. We had some funding to pay my wage for 3 months. It was about 4 months that my wage was paid for. And then after that, up until this point, every single bit of money that I've earned and that the business has earned has come from the produce sales that has come from that land. And we've got it to a point now where we are producing currently, in fact, this last winter, and I'm very proud to say this because that last winter we hit 35 CSA shares, so 35 veggie boxes every single week. And that's what we're producing off 310 square meters. That on top of salad mix means that we're turning over pretty close to $90,000 within produce sales of 310 square meters of growing beds, which would make us by a long way the most profitable farm in New Zealand and the greatest use of land. And this is right down the track. If you told me 3 years ago that it was even possible to produce $500 a week off this land, I would tell you, no way, you're joking. I remember celebrating when we made the first $500, and I remember celebrating when we made our first $1,000 a week. And then as you go on and you learn your soil, and most importantly, adopt the growing practices that we've adopted, which basically mean that you actually enable yourself to produce this much food, because you can't produce this much food not growing the way that we do. And I will love to, and I will, part of this talk is to talk you through exactly what those practices are, because they're pretty important to us. And yeah, just what it's achieved is it just keeps kind of blowing my mind. It's amazing, and what's happened is I've got a lot better at growing things, which is what happens when you spend 50 hours a week on a small piece of land trying to grow stuff really intensively. But also and it's through the observation and repetition and really refining that system and just knowing exactly when the right timing is to plant that right thing and putting it in the ground at that right time. As well as there's so many skills that are involved in running an operation like this. For instance, the first thing is every single thing that we grow on this site is grown in our greenhouse, so it's grown from seed. We don't buy any seedlings. We grow everything, and that's pretty cool. So yeah. I think I'm sort of going all over the show here, but it's been an incredible journey to this point. The business is to just break that business down, because I just dropped some figures on you then. The business is broken down. Our main money maker is the CSA shares. To break the CSA down, it's community supported agriculture. The people that get our veggie boxes are locals. They have to be locals in order to get that service. I will not give veggie boxes to people who live on the North Shore, because it's about local resilience. And this was a really cool decision that we made in the beginning, because it's about money circulating within a hyper-local context, but also in terms of running a business or a farm. It simply makes, I'd be stupid not to. We have thousands of people living within literally kilometre radius of this property. So why would I sell veggies to people on the North Shore or a Newmarket? Well, Newmarket's pretty close, but Epsom or something. There's no point, and the farm should exist for its immediate community. So those people that get the CSA share, our vegetable boxes, our shares are $35 per week. And what that looks like is a vegetable box, which will have between 9 to say 16 different species of plants in it. So you'll have a root vegetable bundle. At the moment, that's radishes, turnips, fennel, and then we've got leeks and celery and chard and all kinds of herbs. We've got amazing herbs, because they're obviously an incredible companion plant, and they're quite high value and they're real high impact as well. People really like herbs because you can just transform a meal with them. So those are the vegetable shares. Those shares are paid for a season. So a season is 13 weeks. It'll be obviously we're in spring at the moment. The next one's summer. That's December through Feb. And those are paid for in advance. So that's pretty good. Most people that are our CSA members, they make that payment in a lump sum. So it's $455, which is really cool. And a lot of other people that can't do that, like students, single parents, all that sort of stuff, they do automatic payments. So that's one big, that's sort of like our bread and butter. The other thing we do is we do another CSA, which is a salad CSA. So it's just salad mix, no veggies, but really nice, diverse salad mix, which every week we'll have upwards of a dozen different species in it. Some weeks I get real creative and chuck like sort of 30 plus species in it, which people love. There's all these crazy flavors. It just blows their mind, and I get really great. I get a lot of thrill from showing people these flavors and plants that they just never know they could eat or even have experienced eating otherwise. And then we also do seedlings, which is really important because it's about, the project is about empowering other people to have these really great gardens as well. So our seedlings as well, all of these things, there's no choice. People don't get a choice what they get in their veggie box. They get it because they value diversity. They want to support a really cool urban farming project, and we hook them up with a great diversity of stuff. The same thing goes with the seedlings. We don't give people a choice because we've developed this really cool model of agriculture, which is highly diverse. So we sell these seedling packs. They're $80, and they've got 62 seedlings in them of 24 different species, and they cover 2 to 4 square meters of growing beds. So they're substantial packs, and the thing with that is that when people get them, they plant them, they're immediately practicing the type of agriculture that we want them to practice, which is the type of agriculture that helps with all of ecosystem functions and is inspiring. Mainly it's inspiring. That's the most important thing for me. When I walk onto a farm and I see a field of one thing, or I just walk onto your standard market garden and it's like they're growing lawns of Mizuna. And that does not interest me to grow a lawn of Mizuna. I'm not there to grow plants to this high level. I'm there to make explosions of chaotic diversity that feeds soil life. And just like what you can achieve with this diversity, not only in terms of your own land, but in terms of the effect that you can have on people, the very visceral effect that you can have on people, is quite phenomenal. And when people walk onto OMG as well, it just doesn't look like a farm. It looks like a garden, a beautiful garden, but it's a farm. So it's both things, and that's really, like, I see there's massive value for a lot of these current gardens there to step up and transition to actually produce food for their community, which is cool. And the main reason we did the project was to inspire people. So seedling CSAs, veggie box CSAs, salad mix CSAs. We also accept compost. We've got 6 very large New Zealand box compost bins. So people, there's not a lot of money to be made in compost, but people pay us like a real small fee. I think it's like $17 a month, $17.50 a month, the same as Kilmana, to drop off like up to 20 litres a week of their organic waste. And then we compost it, we turn it into compost that's then used back in our seedling operation. Those are the main ones. In order to run the farm, the day-to-day of it, we harvest on a Tuesday and a Friday. The people that get the produce, as I said, they live locally and they collect from us, so we don't have to worry about delivering. More than that, the people bring all their own packaging. I've never bought a single cardboard box, a single plastic bag. I've produced close to 3 tons of salad mix and haven't bought a single plastic bag. Most people producing salad mix love to do that, use plastic bags, and we've just, as I said, the whole project's about looking at what's happening, and what we said was like, okay, now how can we design this from the get-go to just eliminate all these unnecessary expenses to our business, and also in the case of plastic bags or compostable bags, even that to the environment, because they're all, tied up in industry, and whether that's necessary or not. Maybe how much longer do I have? I feel like I should probably get onto some of our growing strategies. I think when have I got to? I think I've got another 12 minutes, I think. So maybe I should hop onto, before we do questions, so hop onto some of our growing strategies. Wish I had a better...
Got plenty of time.
Oh, plenty of time. Okay, cool. Sweet as. I'm just going to see if I can...
Go as long as you want.
Okay, cool. So just don't really have many good photos of my growing strategies here, but this is some old photos. So because it's really just changed a lot in the past. It's really the garden in terms of what it's producing. Man, I swear it's almost doubled in the past year in terms of what we're producing, because I've learned what we can get away with and actually how closely you can plant things. Our whole operation, as I said earlier, relies on the greenhouse and the production of seedlings. We don't direct seed much at all. The only things that we direct seed are beans and carrots. I direct seed beans because beans don't really like growing in transplant cells, and that they germinate really well in the ground. I would only grow beans in the greenhouse if I wanted the high soil temp for better germination, but we just do a lot of beans in the ground and carrots. Everything else is grown as a seedling, and those seedlings are grown to be as healthy and mature as possible before we put them in the ground. When we put them in the ground, they are planted out in lines. Maybe I'll just pop on my shared screen again and we'll see if we can find. So you can kind of see here, I look at this now and think, man, like I would pack in double the amount of lettuces and probably some other herbs and stuff in here. But we've got these turnips here along the greenhouse edge here. They are multi-sown, so there's 3 per cell. And then underneath them is a whole 2 lines of carrots that you can see there that are germinating underneath them, as well as the lettuces. So what we do is we plant the seedlings along lines in the rows. You can kind of, again, this is 2 years ago, so I need to find some slightly better pics. Here we go. Here's a slightly better example of it. So you can see we're planting lines along the row, and you see even in this row here in the middle, there's not a lot of path space, because really path space doesn't grow plants, right? Path space just there to walk on, and most of the time it's not even being walked on. And what we've done through the mentorship of one of my main mentors and our main mentor for Love of Bee, which is a man, Daniel Sherman, who has been a wonderful source of inspiration, and he's just continued to push me. He's continued to push me time and time again. Where is this our? Is this going to have some shots? No, it's not. Sorry. This is our. So here we are planning out a guild in the Earthworkers course. This is here we go. Finally found some good photos. So here's our here's me teaching a workshop about planning out guilds. So this would have been a row. I think we would have had about 6 different species in this row. So as you can see, everything is planted very closely together. It looks like we've got lettuces, alliums, jalapenos, cucumbers, coriander. It's really packed full of a whole lot of things, that row. This one here, this was a really successful guild, actually. This is beetroot, leek, coriander, eggplant, and then we've got basil, and then underneath those eggplants, I think there's something as well, or we harvested that off. But anyway, part of this really is when you look at a photo of the farm, as you can see, these are some lovely veggies here, black radish, a turnip, and a celeriac. But you see behind those vegetables there, it's green. It's almost entirely green, the farm. And that really is what we pride ourselves on. And that is how we think of ourselves, first and foremost, as photosynthesis farmers. Because the more the plants that you have planted as a grower are photosynthesizing, the greater your production is. But not only the greater your production is, the greater all of the, I guess, ecosystem functions that are occurring are. For instance, there's a lot of farming systems that rely on deep mulch. We just really don't use that because our mulch is a living mulch. We use plants and photosynthesis to produce lots of food and to repair the soil. And the more photosynthesis you have, it's quite simple math. The more plants you have photosynthesizing, the more sugar you're feeding to the soil, therefore the greater sort of microbial and fungal, bacterial fungal levels of the soil you've got. What's more than that is, as I said in the beginning, having diverse species planted together means you're feeding different groups of microorganisms within the soil. And it has actually been, since I've learned actually how close you can plant things together, and that process has been very much about planting things and observing how they grow, and looking at what different qualities and characteristics each individual species has, and how you could, I guess, put those things together. Oh, here's a lovely photo of one of our harvests. So you got some dill, you got a whole crate full of kohlrabi. This is sprouting broccoli, carrots, turnips, radishes. This was, I'll never forget this actually, this is some of the greatest coriander I've ever grown. One seedling that started off really small, producing half a kilo plants. It just kind of blew my mind. I was no idea you could grow one coriander plant that was half a kilo. But yeah, this was just one harvest that I did one day. I actually remember this harvest because look at this, August 20th. it was very early in this lockdown. So there's, oh, here's a great photo actually of what our beds look like. So most people would look at this and not really see, they just see sort of a crazy chaotic diversity, but within that there's a massive amount. That's the dill there, which we're clearing out from here. Once the dill's gone, the kale will fill that place, as well as was a whole lot of carrots underneath there as well. We've got turnips, we've got leeks, we've got red onions. Then we've got lots of little baby radishes, as well as I don't know if you can see my mouse, but there's a lot of fennel interplanted here. And now it's really interesting looking at this bed because the leeks out back here, we kept them in and they're still a freestanding crop. And the kales, this fennel we actually harvested from these little fennel seedlings today. So that's good. But this is the type of this is what we're looking for. Is it's just radically different to what most other market gardens are. And so yeah, this was locked down. I believe this. I remember this day. This was actually a terrible day for me. It was a very good day, but it was a terrible day because I actually got mugged at the end of this day. That's why I remember it so vividly. But hey, I got mugged for veggies, to give that clarification. And so I gave this person these veggies. He was a very mean person. But regardless of that, this is COVID level 4 lockdown, and we keep going. This doesn't stop us whatsoever. And what's also very important as a business is that, as I said, because of the way that we've designed it, by basically having all local people, they're locals. They live right there by us, so they're super local. It was really easy just to continue on the model. Here's some of our salads. So I really like to grow endive because I'm actually I don't grow a lot of lettuce. Endive grows a lot better, and also I'm really into here you go. This guild's actually popping at the moment. Broad beans, kale, perpetual spinach, and then there's coriander in between that kale there as well. Yeah, so you can get the picture of how stuff's going here. I'll probably stop my share now. But yeah, so we plant lots of things really intensely close together, and the harvests of that bed are staggered. So for instance, any brassica that we plant, you can put a whole lot of things with them, like for instance a cabbage or like a cauliflower or a broccoli. We would put spring onions, coriander, and turnips underneath that. And it would be at exactly the same density. The broccoli would be at exactly the same density as an intensive farm. But what we're doing is basically, if from me as a grower, if I see a weed, I've failed, because I haven't failed. If I see a weed, the first thing I do is I love it, because I'm like, you're a plant, you're photosynthesizing, you're doing a better job than bare soil is right now. Bare soil is something that you should avoid at all costs. But really, if you've got lots of weeds coming up, that can be because of a whole lot of things from the soil, but also the thing that I look at it as is that I've failed because I haven't planted something in there to take that sunlight. So really what we do is when we plant our guilds up, we fill them up, all kinds of seedlings. And a lot of those seedlings will be like the early harvesters. So coriander, radish, mizuna, rocket at this time of year, just grows so fast, and you can harvest it off. So you can have so many different things all stacked up, and the harvest continually comes on. The other thing that we do at the farm is, as I said, we're photosynthesis farmers first and foremost. So what we're looking for, hence my little dig at, all these farmers growing lawns of things. I'm not interested in growing lawns. I'm not even interested in growing crops to 30 centimeters in height, or 40, 50 centimeters in height. That's not what I want. I want to grow crops that, as I said, explode and photosynthesize to their maximum potential. So what we're talking here is we're talking about vertical farming. We're talking about occupying levels of space and vertical height. And this year, man, we're going real crazy with it, because I walk in, you walk into greenhouses and you see commercial greenhouses, and the plants are like 2 meters tall everywhere. That's what I want OMG to look like this summer. So traditionally we've had a vertical row every 3 rows, whereas this year I'm just going to go all out, and we're doing basically every row with a vertical climate in it, whether that be a bean, a tomato, a cucumber. Beans, tomatoes, and cucumbers are our 3 kind of main rotation vertical crops that we do, and we'll grow them through the middle of the bed, and then underneath them, say if we've got beans, they're going to occupy the vertical space, so I'll be harvesting up here, and then underneath them you can have something that's, I don't know, waist height, an aubergine, pepper, whatever you like, that's also vertical. You can do that, and then underneath that, man, you can really pack it full of things. And so every bed, this whole concept of rotating crops, and I get asked this a lot, when you're growing this way, you simply do not need to worry about that. You don't need to worry about that. We have very little bug and pest pressure. And when we do, it's absolutely no big deal for me, because I've already got 8 other crops in the bed. If I lose one, what's the big deal? There's no big deal. Carry on. Learn and observe and carry on. And the other thing as well that I've learned is, if you're struggling to grow something and you can't grow it, that can just simply be because of your climate or your site, or that it's just not meant for you at this time. So stop trying to grow it. If you can't grow it, there's a million other crops that you can grow that you're potentially really good at growing. So just stick with them. Some really good advice that I got given from someone, because I was really obsessed with, I love growing daikon radish, love them. But for some reason, all the daikon radish that I plant there, I don't know what it is, but it gets this like black kind of center to it. And I kept putting it in as a crop. And then Daniel said to me, like, just grow another type of radish. And so then I started growing other types of radishes. And did I have a problem again? No. It's all good. So yeah, just really learning, working with diversity, working with height and the power of photosynthesis, working with local community, local economy. It's been a really incredible experience. Over the past 3 years, I've got to the point now where I used to have terrible. I think the second year was the hardest. That was the year where I was just throwing my life at it. It was 50 hours a week there. And then I because I'm running the whole business, I'm making all the sales. I kind of do everything there. Apart from For the Love of Bees, they do all the employment stuff and the liability insurance and all the boring business stuff, which is really good. It frees me up to be creative. But really, it's got to a point now where After this is the 4th season, so after 3.5, nearly 4 years of doing this, it's actually become quite easy. I used to have terribly anxious dreams. I used to have nightmares about kohlrabi and like crop planning and stuff. Honestly, I used to go to sleep and wake up in cold shivers over fucking vegetables. Excuse my language, but I had to get that out. It was just ridiculous. And now with the knowledge, that knowledge is basically observation, very close observation of plants through time. And the fact that it's not only me on site now, so there's myself at 40 hours a week, but the farm supports 1.5 wages now. So there's another farmer on 25 hours, which has mean that we've been able to put some more structure around things. And I've actually had someone there with me to sit down with and really get good at planning. So that's been the real game changer. Once I started to look at a planning system for how to plant these, we call them guilds out in these rows. Once we sort of really nailed that planning element, everything just fell into complete alignment. And it was last winter, and this last winter just been, June, July, August, we produced more food than we ever have before. And it was the middle of winter, and I couldn't believe it. I was just like, this doesn't make sense. How have we grown this much food? But that's the thing, hey, is that I don't think we even know what plants in nature are actually capable of producing. I think that they're capable of producing and that's what I'm saying. If I think this is peak production now, I know it's not. The moment you start to say this is this, then you've just made that decision and that reality for yourself. So it's really important to be open to what things can be and what things can achieve. Because I was closed for a bit then, and then I just embraced it and let the mentors that I had around me really push me and push myself, and lived and learned and observed. It was that good planning combined with the 3 years of very closely and intensely watching how plants grow together and harvesting them off and distributing them to the local community. But yeah, it's pretty cool. We have very little waste. This doesn't even really exist as a concept, unless it's a diseased leaf or something, in which case all the biomass that gets produced on that land, on that soil, gets recycled and with our own homemade sort of static compost piles that we don't ever turn to maintain fungal dominance. Yeah, so we've got really high fungal dominance in our soils. And the other thing that I will say, which is probably the most game-changing thing, is that we're 100% no-till. Okay, so what that means is obviously we don't use a mechanical tiller, but we also don't use a broad fork or a garden fork or a spade, or the only kind of tilling that we don't subscribe to the idea that humans have to mechanically intervene to put air into the soil. That's a stupid idea, and that's very human centric, and that totally doesn't seek to even look at how the soil system works, how oxygen and carbon goes around that soil. The soil is something that we know very little about. It's very capable, and when you're growing lots of dense plants in it, it's very capable of the plant roots and all of the earthworms and the microorganisms are more than capable of putting that oxygen into that soil. So we stopped digging, and we used to dig a lot. We used to go through every bed with a broad fork before we planted it, because that's what everyone does. And the moment we stopped doing that, we saw some radical improvements in soil health. Not only that, was we spend a lot less time farming, because it takes time to broad fork your bed. It takes so much time, and it's just a complete and utter waste of time. And I know, because I've done it, and I've watched soil health degrade at a rapid rate. And it's a very interesting thing, and that's why we call ourselves, or the way that we grow is regenerative organic. Because there's a whole lot of organic farms out there that rip their soil to shreds, and they value soil structure, but they still rip it to shreds. There's no nice way of tilling the soil, really. It's still tilling it. And also, from my thinking as well, there's no such thing as a no-till farm. Like I say, we're no-tilling, but when you're planting a seedling and pulling that back, you're digging into the ground. Also, like, the other reason I'd never till is because I'm smarter than that. What I'll do is I'll plant some carrots, and you plant a bed of carrots, and those carrots, you pull them out, or you plant some leeks and you pull them out, and what have you left in the ground? You've left a nice sort of hole that looks pretty similar to a broad fork, but completely naturally, and you've gained a harvest from it. So yeah, we're just, it's a thing that it's just ingrained in agriculture, and tilling of the soils is very closely linked to the collapse of the Roman Empire, because they just degraded their soils. They moved further and further out, and hey, look at the state of the world that we're in at the moment. So we believe that you don't have to do that in agriculture, and so we don't practice that. Yeah, but really not into saying, don't do that and don't do that. The best thing that we can do is just say, hey, look, this is what we're doing. These are the results we're getting. We love it. Come, just try it with us. So anyway, things are looking up. Things are getting a lot easier. I've sort of got my head around how to do this a bit easier now. And we're looking to roll out more of these farms. Yeah, so we're looking for some. The first thing is land. That's definitely the most important. But yeah, that's pretty comprehensive. Sort of little download of OMG and my kind of journey with it, I guess, over the past 4 years. Yeah, so if you've got any questions, happy to answer them, but I'm aware it's like 8:45 now, so been on for a while, I think.
Yep, there seems to be a lot of questions that have come through on the chat.
Oh.
So there's quite a number of questions here. What is OMG's soil type?
Oh, I'd call it urban.
Don't you have a concrete slab underneath or something?
Yeah. I should show you. I wish I had it. I need to put it on Instagram, but it used to be a car park, the site. So we've got these beds, and each bed going along is 12.5 meters long, and the first 4 meters of those beds, you can't even stick a spade down into it, a full spade. It won't even go just underneath the full spade, and that's the amount of soil that we're producing these vegetables in. I thought that it wasn't possible to grow in that much soil. And when we first started planting things, there'd be like, you'd plant a line of crops along the row, and the heights of them would be so staggered. It was almost like seeing an X-ray underneath the soil. And I was thinking, oh man, like this is dumb, you know, like what are we doing here? Like we need more soil on. And over time, just through plants and compost, it's been amazing what we've been able to achieve. But back to the question, soil type, what happened was it was like by a road. It was literally a car park and a road, half the site. So it's like compact clay with like fine gravel metal over the top. And then at some point, after the building burned down there, the site was cleared, and we spent the first 6 months on that site digging out carpet underlay, so much rubble, bricks. The soil, I'd call it very much, it's very typical of central Auckland soils. So it's quite heavy silt-based soil. But it's amazing what has happened to it since we've adopted our practices. It's almost turned into a loam now. It's incredible.
How do you get on with irrigation? It's a very, very sunny spot in summer, and we see the lines you've got going through the garden.
Yes.
How do you get on with irrigation?
Very good question. We are very extremely lucky to be to have the building have mains water. So we have drip irrigation to maintain base level moisture in the soil. And to be honest, I've gone off drip irrigation a little bit, because you don't really know. It's very easy. You can't see it going on. You don't know how much you're putting on. That can be of quite some detriment. And we use a lot of overhead, but that's just a movable impact sprinkler that we move onto different beds. But also at the same time, if stuff's really dry, I can just turn that dripper. Normally what I'll do is I'll overhead the whole farm, so it's just like a big impact sprinkler, make the soil all wet. Then I'll turn the drip irrigation on, and then that will bring the base moisture levels right up. But yeah, water over the summer, very important. And also the most important thing with watering is really making sure you've got as much leaf coverage as possible. And in summer, the use of shade cloths and stuff as well is really important.
Cool. I'll just merge a few questions here.
Yep.
It's all about harvesting, diversity, intensity. You've got the crops in really close.
Yep.
How do you manage to harvest when they're so close? And what's your methodology around the combinations and timings and spacings? And certain plants grow faster than others.
Yeah, sure. The harvesting is absolutely crucial to growing in this way. If you're going to plant beds this dense, you gotta come through and you got to harvest them, and you got to harvest them in certain ways to make sure that they make room for other plants. So how we do that is we divide all plants. You can imagine them as being of a different harvest type. So you've got you've got pluck, you've got cut, also you've got pull veggies, which is, for instance, beetroot or a radish or a carrot. It sits there, it grows, and then it gets completely pulled, removed from the system, gone. You've got cut and come again veggies like a lettuce or a celery or a silver beet or a chard. Those are continual harvest veggies. They keep harvesting over a long period of time. And then you've got the pluck veggies, which are commonly your fruits, so beans, tomatoes, cucumbers, also which harvest over a long time. So we've got the pluck veggies, we've got cut veggies, which is often leafy greens and stuff, and herbs as well, some perennial herbs that can do it. And then you've got the pulls, and the pulls are very important to this mode of companion planting, because the pulls can just be removed from the system entirely. For instance, say a really easy beginner's combo would be spring onions, carrots, and radishes. The radishes would come in first, the spring onions second, and the carrots third. But the radishes, all those things actually they're all pull crops. So what you could actually do is you could plant all those things underneath a pluck crop, like a pepper bush, or I don't know what it is on the top of my head. You could put them next to a cut and come again crop, like a celery would be a good one for that guild combo, or rainbow chard or something like that. But yeah, it's the way to do it. Like I can teach anyone how to do this, but it would require about 2 hours and a whiteboard, and ideally we'd have the farm there as well. But it really requires looking at this close observation of the nature of that vegetable, and also looking at what you've planted, the combination of what you've planted, and how those things will be harvested. The ones that we put through everything, which are just so easy, are, and you can just put these with anything, are, and they're all pulls, like removed from the system. But like this time of year, spring onions, coriander, you can basically grow these all year round. Spring onions, coriander, radishes, yeah, you can put them with anything.
Another question.
Yep.
Do you have to teach people how to use the plants in the boxes? Or how to use the vegetables?
Yeah. It's actually an amazing experience for people when they do pop onto CSA. A lot of people have said that it's just radically changed their life, because we expose them to vegetables that you can't find in the supermarkets, and that's really exciting for a lot of people. And I say to people, look, if you don't want to be creative and adventurous, and a little bit fun, then these boxes aren't for you. You can go to the supermarket. But yeah, we do give people recipes, and if someone, if it's a new crop like New Zealand spinach or celeriac or kohlrabi, like we'll definitely tell people recipes. But also you've got the world of Google at your fingertips. It's really easy to find recipes for stuff.
Cool. What's your favorite seed suppliers?
Great question. The best seed supplier is your own safe seed, because it costs you nothing. You have amazing germination, and you know what you're getting if you've done a good job. Second to that, I really would like to rep all of the New Zealand seed producers that we've got, specifically Cephas Seeds. Does a really great job of producing exceptional quality seed that has really good germination. I've got quite a lot of seed from Cephas Seed. I've also got seed from Italian Seeds Pronto, which is good. A lot of the saved seed that I have has come from Koanga. And yeah, got some epic varieties that I've sort of kept alive from them. The seed that I like to save is the seed that is the easiest to save. You have to be very conscious of saving seed, because that is a process of selective genetic modification, essentially. And a lot of people who are getting into it, there's just so much more complexity to saving seed than HCI. You really want to do your research on exactly what it is you're saving, and whether that plant has the ability to cross-pollinate with other plants. And really, like, you're looking at saving seed from the very best of that one. But since we've got into such massive production, save seed's just really good because it just minimizes your costs. You get amazing germination, and that's mainly the amazing germination that I love. I also get a lot of seed from King Seed, which is cool. Support another New Zealand company, but it is worth noting that 99.9% of King Seed comes from Italy and the US, and that their seed is the cheapest seed, which is great. They've got very cheap seed and a great diversity, and that's really awesome. But also, it's just the more that I do this, the more I'm aware of the footprint, and I know that New Zealand produces an immense amount of vegetable seed, and I would love to access that to grow on urban farms. We grow like onion, carrot, potato, like we grow all kinds of seed for the world. It's all exported, and that's just the dumb way that we've got our economy geared. I don't know.
What are the most popular crops amongst your clients?
Oh, the most popular crops amongst clients. That's a good one. Honestly, I think that the most popular thing that people love is the diversity that they get. And the answer to that, I know what that is. It's our salad mix. It's our OMG salad mix, which is quite often got 1 or 2 different types of microgreens in it. And then, as I said, a dozen different species of all kinds of other things, hand-picked herbs. Yeah, that's cool just because it's a flavor bomb. People value diversity.
Last question.
Yep.
What is the most labor-intensive, time-consuming routine on the farm?
That's a very good question.
Planting.
Yeah, it's the harvesting. It's the harvesting and the distribution that takes up the most time. Yeah, planting. A lot of the work that we do is done with people. So if I've got a really labor-intensive job, I'm an urban farmer. I live with and exist within a community. I'll bring people to me, and I'll bring the vibe, and I'll play some fun music, and we'll get the job done together. Yeah.
Is it possible to visit?
It is possible to visit. So hopefully once we get out of all these restrictions, at the moment it's you can't walk in, unfortunately, because we sell to the public and you can't enter the premises. But hopefully soon we'll be open to visit again. Tuesdays and Fridays are the days to come visit. Those are our days where we do our CSA collections. So we do the harvest that day, and that's when drop-in volunteers are welcome as well. So anyone can come in and volunteer on a Tuesday and Friday and harvest with us. And I love teaching people and dropping lots of, sharing what I know at this point.
And when we can visit, is it possible to buy some seedlings from you?
So you can buy seedlings at any point in time, but again, like they're done through CSA. So at the moment, the only thing you can buy is summer seedling CSA, and that's available for like another week, and then the next one will be the autumn one. And the reason we do that is because everything's prepaid for. I like with the seedlings, like we sell them and then I grow them, and then I don't have that terrible anxiety that I used to have when I've growing, like I remember back in the days, I planted heaps of celery and then I'm just stuck with all the celery and how do I get rid of it? But yeah, the other thing with seedlings is you don't want to grow lots of seedlings and then not have the market for them or the space to put them in the ground. So you can at any point in time get the next available seasons with seedlings. Yeah, but you can't rock up and unfortunately you can't rock up and buy anything because we're just at a if we were 2,000 square meters, we'd have a greater economy of scale. We'd be able to have a store. We'd be able to offer that service, but we're just so small that we have to do that to save on time.
We didn't ask what you feed apart from your own compost.
Yes, that last thing you said, your own compost, is very, very crucial. I am an absolute lover of compost. Spent as long as I've been growing plants, I've been making compost, and the better quality it is, that's really good. So, but basically we put on very little compost now. We're at the point where we've reached the level of organic matter in our soils. We don't need much more organic matter. So quality over quantity always. So yeah, we do make static piles. The other thing that we do, which we've needed to do because we're literally growing in a car park with not much soil, is we follow a foliar feeding program, which is designed for urban farms by our main mentor, Daniel Sherman, through his business Biologics. So there's a root feed, and then there's 2 foliar steps, which is applications of fine mistings of beneficial microorganisms and their food. So they land on the leaves of the plants, and that's an amazing way just to push plants along and grow plants in compromised environments. We had to do that a lot to start off with to get things really pumping, because plants certainly didn't grow this well in the beginning. They struggled. Yeah, so we used to foliar feed every single week. We'd feed. The other thing as well was we also root drench for like a seaweed. Yeah, just to help newly planted seedlings establish their roots. And the other thing we do with our seedling trays is we soak them in those beneficial microbes before we plant them out. Every step there's beneficial microbes involved. It's all about the diversity of microorganisms, basically. That's what gives you resilience. Yeah.
Okay, I think it's time for Judy now. Would you be able to, Levi, hand it over to Judy?
Yeah, love to.
Just, click on the right hand